Hey guys, I just wanted to let you know, thanks very much for listening in on the show today. We just wanted to let you know that there is an amazing challenge that we just launched called the Unlimited Client Attraction Challenge. Now, for you guys that are interested in learning more about how you can generate leads. Now, I'm not talking about normal leads. I'm talking about highly qualified leads. How you can learn the simplified strategies that some of the go-to experts like myself and the thought leaders that are using specific types of strategies that are growing their companies at exponential measures. So we're going to be taking you through a 6-day challenge. 4 of the days, we're going to be going through a step-by-step guide of 4 strategies about what you need to do in order to grow your companies. Me and Beata Shalette, who's my business partner on this, we're going to be hand-holding you and going through all the different aspects. These are the strategies that we're using in our own business right now that is working down to the ground that you guys need to implement into your business straight away. So the website that you need is theclientattractionchallenge.com. The link is below for more information. It is practically free. Make sure you check out the link below. It's going to be absolutely epic. Starts October 27th, 6 p.m. UK time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll see you again on the challenge. Cheers.
This is the Game Changers Experience. Deep dive conversations with leading business disruptors, Olympic athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and influencers from around the world. This show will teach you insights about the winning principles in mindset, productivity, marketing, branding, entrepreneurship, business strategy, and more. Hosted by productivity authority, business strategist, former elite athlete, author, and public speaker, Adam Strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers Experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have another great guest here on the show, and I'm going to tell you how we met, actually only a few weeks ago. So who do we have here on the show? Someone that is very unique. He's award-winning, and his name, I'm going to get this completely wrong, and he's going to laugh at me in a second. Ezechi. There we go, Ezechi.
Ezechi.
There we go. But most of his friends call him, they don't call him EZ, by the way, because we were just laughing at that, but Easy. Okay, we just call it Easy. How's that? As easy sounds good for you. Ez, there we go. Ez Britton, ladies and gentlemen, right? Who is basically the CTO and former member of Impact X Capital, which is a venture capital fund dedicated to funding what we call underrepresented entrepreneurs. And he's also the co-founder of a company called Code Untapped, working to support diversified technologists and tech startup founders. He also sits as an advisor and mentors multiple different startups in the tech world. He actually started off his should we say, he's got a massive diversity of experience in the investment banking world, especially in the tech hub. And in 2019, he was awarded the Venture Capitalist of the Year, by Industry Tech Alliance. And this year, he was named MBE for his services in diversity for younger people in the 2022 New Year Awards. So, without further ado, Easy. I'm still not going to get it right, am I? I'm still not going to. Ez. Wait, okay, Ez. Okay, Ez, great. There we go. Ez, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. Thank you, Adam, for having me. Listen, so I call you Adam?
Don't call me Adam. Do you know? Because I'm here in Turkey, ladies and gentlemen, right? So what they call it, like they call me in Turkish, by the way, they call it Adem.
Right.
Adem. So you can call me Adem if you want, because I'm in Turkey, right? And I just called it Ez. There we go. I even said it correctly. There we go. Perfect, right? Oh my God, like 50th time lucky. Anyway, listen, ladies and gents, really looking forward to today's conversations. It's interesting how me and Ez actually met through a pitching competition. This was only about 3-4 weeks ago from when we were recording. And he was one of the judging panels, should we say, through a big pitching competition that we had here in London. And interestingly enough, I was there pitching. I was in one of the regional finals. There was a really strong, I mean, there was some really impressive pitches on the evening. And Zed was basically there. You know, he was there judging me and all the other pitching competitors and stuff like that. And that's how we, and just after conversations, after the competition and stuff, you know, we hit off like a house like fire. And I was really impressed with his credentials, but also, you know, there was just some really great conversations that happened. So I just want to say, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. I mean, thank you so much for having me.
And even though it's kind of like, I must have got your name wrong at least 50 times, but hey, that's just kind of like, but we'll blame your dad for that, because you said that you're originally from Nigeria, right?
Well, actually, so my mum was Nigerian. So yeah, that's where the name came from. So yeah, so look, I've had it all my life. It's fine. I get it. You know, you just have to have a bit of patience with people. But you have to be persistent, right? The problem is when you give up. And that's an issue. Right? It's like, you've got to keep going. No, you can get there. We're going to get there. We're going to get there, right?
But I'm sure that, like, you know, there's nothing more embarrassing that, especially if you go to an award ceremony and they're like, oh yeah, we've got a great, and then they start presenting, and then they say your name wrong, and I'm like, oh damn it, they said it wrong.
There is, but to be fair, I mean, it happens to me as well. I've had to hand out awards where I see the name and it will be an Eastern European name, like Polish or whatever. Yeah. And I'll look at it and I'll say, I have no idea how to pronounce this, literally. And it was, I did an awards for, I won't name the organisation, but a really great organisation. And it was two names that won. And they were both just unpronounceable to me, because I literally had no idea how these names are spelled. So I did my best, but you butcher people's names and it's horrible. And I actually said to them afterwards, I was like, look, you're going to have people with difficult names to pronounce.
Of course. Then
you need to give us a heads up beforehand so we can pronounce the names correctly. Definitely. Because it is embarrassing, not only for the person giving the award, but especially for the person receiving it. For some people, this is the highlight of their year. For some, it's the highlight of their career. It may well be the first time they've ever received an award. And then you've got some idiot like me up there butchering their name. So you have absolutely, I think it's so important that we put time and effort into trying to understand these things. It's vital.
Definitely. Well, listen, looking forward to our conversations tonight. And I know that we really didn't get much of an opportunity when we met in London, did we? And because it was a lot going on and stuff like that. But I just thought I'd kind of take this opportunity to get to know each other a bit more and kind of, you know, dive deep in a little bit, deep a little bit further into your world, in the world of kind of, you know, VCs, angel investing and pitching and stuff like that. You know, it's a whole, I mean, we could probably practically be here all day, ladies and gents. So looking forward to today's conversations, nevertheless. I know that, you know, one of your big, and I think you've exited the business now, haven't you? Which was the health and wellbeing company.
Financial wellbeing, so Neyber.
Yeah. Did you? I wanted to kind of like go into that, because was that where it really started for you out of investment banking?
And when you say it, you mean more the entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, actually, I've always wanted to go down the entrepreneurship route. From an early age. I started off as a software developer, but and in the banking world, it wasn't banking I wanted to join. Originally, I wanted to be in video game development, but because of my A levels and the rest of it, I just couldn't find any companies that would take me right back then. And I did an industrial placement year at university. So I went to University of Kent at Canterbury, where I studied computer science. And you have to get a placement. And I really wanted to find an IT company, a tech company, a games company to work for. And no one would accept me. No
really?
One, right?
Wow.
I applied to Core Design. I applied to Microsoft. I applied to IBM. I applied to Sun Microsystems. Just whether it was video games or whether it was software, just no one was interested, because I had to resit my A levels and all sorts, right? And actually, it was Lehman Brothers, an investment bank, that gave me my shot. So I actually gave up on the idea of video games at that time. I went and worked for an investment bank as a Java developer. And I was at Lehman until 2008 or 2009. And those of you who know, Lehman were at the center of the financial crisis. The bank went under, and I actually stayed on at that bank when PwC came in and brought the company under administration, because they needed a lot of us as a technologists to continue to run the complex systems. Because I actually worked in the credit derivatives team at the time, which was kind of ground zero for a lot of what went on.
Wow.
But during that time, I was actually trying to build my first company, which was a protein shake vending machine business. So healthy vending machines, snacks, protein shake machines. And it was myself and a friend, and we were trying to build this thing. And we took a few steps along the road to the point where we had a manufacturer, we had Maximuscle were talking about working with us. We had Fitness First talking about distributing our powder through their gyms and all sorts of stuff. And I think this is just two guys who've never done this before, being able to get these conversations going. But just the funding requirements for two people in the middle of a financial crisis who've never been entrepreneurs before, it just wasn't going to happen.
Wow.
And to try to get a vending machine, a first vending machine built, like 400 grand, right? So It scales up massively once you've got that first one done. But to get past those first steps, especially all the microbial issues and all sorts when you're dealing with protein powders, it just wasn't going to happen. So then I went to Switzerland, where I worked for Credit Suisse in equity derivatives. And towards the end of Switzerland, my time there, I was working on another idea, another software company, working on auto-escalating notifications for investment banks, right? Super sexy title, didn't go anywhere. But it was after that that my co-founder at Neyber, who I'd actually worked with during my time at Lehman Brothers, approached me about this idea for Neyber. I said, cool, let's do this. After a bit of convincing, but I said, let's do it. And we launched Neyber, and I built out the original core platform that sat behind the whole thing, whilst basically working part-time in Switzerland and flying back and forth from London to Zurich every week. So that my journey really started way back, but it was very incremental how I got there. But then, Neyber was really when the entrepreneurship went full-time, right? That was it. Now I'm on the entrepreneur pathway, and I spent about 5 years doing that. And then from Neyber, launched Code Untapped and joined ImpactX.
Very cool. And what was the? Was that around 2012? Is that what you were talking about?
So 2013 was when we started working on it, and then we officially launched it in October 2014.
Nice. And where did the whole kind of like opportunity? Where did you see the opportunity? Because I know that I remember us speaking at the end of the event. You're like, oh, you know what? I've got that on my ideas list, right? Which we'll talk about it, right? But was it you that came up with the idea, and then you kind of like, hey, I need to get like some business partners involved? What was the kind of process, if you like?
So back then, to be honest, my biggest idea was I want to be financially independent and geographically independent, right? So I wanted to be able to make my money from wherever I wanted. Nice. And really what I wanted to do was to buy a laptop, go sit on a beach in Thailand and build a remote working startup of some kind as an IT expert or tech expert. And then actually it was my co-founder. He came to me with the original idea. And I remember saying to him, this is too big, it's too much. There's no way you and I are going to do this. And then he went away and came back with a slimmed down version. And I looked at it and I thought, this is still pretty crazy. But, and it was also to do with peer-to-peer lending within an organization, allowing employees to borrow and save together.
Got it.
And then ultimately deduct those payments from payroll. And we were like, well, I've never built a lending platform. We don't know anything about payroll companies, and we don't know anything about actual lending. But I've done 10 years in finance and financial services and investment banking. I've built risk and pricing platforms. I've been trying to build a commercial platform for the last few months. Let's give it a go, right? So that's really where it all came about from. So
very cool.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Love that. I mean, what would you say? Because I mean, you've exited that now. You've exited that business now, correct?
Yeah, I did a few years ago.
A few years ago. What would you have said your biggest highs and lows of working in that, should we say, in that first major company of yours? Were there any kind of like major milestones or major headaches that you had to kind of really deal with?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I mean, definite highs. Getting those first few funding rounds in. I mean, we raised like £200 million, right?
Oh, wow.
So over the course of building that company, but I still remember the biggest high, actually, considering we're an online lending platform and I built it in my bedroom. Literally, you hear the myth of the bedroom coder. Literally built it in my bedroom. Writing code, and then actually managed to get to the point where I was writing code at work and doing all sorts of things, right? We won't talk about that. But built this thing, launched it whilst living in Switzerland, and we were working with a client in the UK, so an organisation where we would allow their employees to lend together, borrow and lend to each other. And I still remember that first loan application coming through. And I was getting all the notifications on my phone. Bear in mind, this was in 2013, right?
Yeah.
Because we unofficially launched and then we officially launched. So I think actually, we went live with a small client in January, February 2014. I still remember that first loan request coming through, seeing it on my phone and thinking, we've actually got a loan request. It's amazing. And then processing it through and doing all sorts. And it's hilarious because that first year, I think we processed maybe 4 loans.
Really? Oh, wow.
4 loans. These weren't big loans, right? These are like £1,200, right? 4 loans in that first year. And then this is the crazy thing as a VC now. Any company who said this is our traction year one, I'd be like, okay. Okay, come back later. But that's literally where we started. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And I think that was definitely my biggest high. And genuinely for me, the big highs for me were seeing my team develop and seeing people developing as individuals. Even when they left the organization, eventually, I'll come back to that. But over the years, towards the end, when they left and went on to find work elsewhere, the fact they were able to go from, being paid 50 grand, 40, 50K when I first hired them, to now being able to command 120, 130K when they left me as contractors. That to me was a big seal of approval. I was like, look, I did that. I trained these guys up. They're now worth 3-4 times, 3x what they were when they joined me. That was amazing.
Love it.
But in terms of lows, I'd say the biggest low at the beginning was actually when my first employee quit.
Wow.
That was painful. That was a real blow to the ego. It was like, oh my God, why has this guy left my team? What have I done wrong? That was really rough. I forget about that, but no, that was truly a difficult moment. And then, there are all sorts of difficult moments. Some I don't particularly like talking about, but others, I'd say one of the toughest things is the challenges with your co-founders, right? And there were some real challenges between us as a founding team at the very beginning, well, not at the beginning, over time. High pressure environments, high stakes, challenges between founders, CEO, CTO relationships, all sorts of things. And eventually it got to the point where, as the business started to change direction, become less of a tech company, more of a financial services business, where it's really more about relationships and the rest, and partnerships and sales. And I just thought, this isn't really for me anymore. I'm not enjoying this. It's time for me to step away. And I did. I stepped away 2018, I think it was. And then took some time out. It was also when my mum passed as well. So my mum passed of cancer. And that was really like the final straw for me. I was like, I need to move on now, because otherwise I'm going to kill someone in the office. I need to move on.
It's the universe telling you, my friend.
Absolutely. So there were definite highs, definite lows.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
And you have all the other stories of those times you can barely make payroll, right? So it's
yeah. it all affects us in different ways, right? Especially from like emotionally.
Yeah.
Like especially with your mum passing. Emotionally, it must have a heavy toll on like mentally as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So
I had to take a good year after, and I appreciate not everyone gets that luxury, but after stepping away, I was able to take a year just figuring out what is it that I wanted to do. I was burnt out from building the startup literally from scratch in my bedroom to a company that raised over 200 million, lent out over 170 million, met over 100 employees. And, then my mum passing, I needed time out just to reset, think about what I wanted to do. And it was during that time that I came up with Code Untapped, which was very much what I'd say is a feed my soul project. It was all about trying to bridge the gap between diverse technologists and corporates. And it was more of a personal mission for me because I would often be up there speaking about the founder's journey, being an entrepreneur, creating a company, and how it's never been an easier thing to do, in the sense that it's never been easier to start, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. However, I would still find that people like me were rarely doing it at scale. And I've always felt that the secret sauce to building tech startups is the secret's in the word tech, right? It's having that technical skill set. We were able to build Neyber because I could literally build the platform. And if you can't do that, you have a whole host of other challenges that you have to overcome. And technology is so accessible in that you can literally, as long as you've got a laptop and an internet connection and a browser, you can learn what you need to from Wikipedia, YouTube, W3 Schools, GitHub, Stack Overflow. There are so many free resources out there for you to become a great developer. And yet it just wasn't really happening. So for me, Code Untapped was about bringing those two worlds together. And then whilst I was doing that, I was then approached by Eric Collins at ImpactX. So it was a real journey and transition from one to the other. And the irony is, I said, one of the reasons why I left Neyber was it become less of a tech company and more of an organization about relationships and financial services. And now I'm in the ultimate relationships and financial services industry, which is venture capital. And it's all about relationships and financial services. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, I love it. I love listening to people's journey and how it all came about, if you like. I was going to say, I have to ask you, how did you? I remember us speaking very, after the event during the pitching competition, and you said, "Oh, I've got all these list of ideas and whatever it is." How do you? And maybe this is just kind of getting into your world a little bit, but how do you come up with your own ideas? And then how do you evaluate if something is an idea to then pursue? What's your thoughts on the methodology?
That's such an interesting question. So I sometimes struggle with this myself, ironically, right? And during my year, I just spent time every time I saw a problem, right? And I was like, why hasn't that been solved? I would scribble something down I had a Google Notes, what's it called? I can never remember what it's called.
Like a Kindle type of thing?
No, Google have, I never remember what it's called. It's so annoying. Google Keep, right, is what they have. And it syncs between your phone and your laptop. And it literally comes up. You can just take quick notes. And I just had a pinned note on Google Keep where I just kept writing down ideas about anything. Didn't matter what it was. Just wrote it down. And I would berate myself about not being able to come up with global, scalable ideas all the time. Like, why am I not coming up with these crazy ideas? What's going on? Why are all these ideas so small? But I just want to say this to people, which is that very few people come up with a global, scalable idea day one. Right? Usually you come up with a problem that needs to be solved, that affects people, right? And you go out there and you attempt to solve that problem. And then you identify that actually there's already solutions to this problem, and not that many people really that bothered about it. And actually, there's this idea of problem solution fit, but maybe I don't have problem market fit, right? And that becomes more of an issue. But by attempting to solve a problem, you often uncover other problems, right? you'll suddenly be going, oh, there's loads of solutions to this, but this one particular thing I keep coming across, and I'm having to solve it from scratch every time. There doesn't seem to be a core solution to this. And you start noticing, well, maybe other people are having this issue as well. And that's when you start to lean into, is this a real problem, right? And why hasn't it been solved? And maybe, and this is where you do have to really be honest with yourself, right? And this is where I talk about that problem market fit versus problem solution fit. A lot of founders find a real problem and come up with a real solution. And absolutely, it works. It solves the problem, right? But this is where, coming back to your original question, is this a problem worth pursuing? Often, when you find problems that have been sat around for ages and no one's bothered to solve, it's because the market has found a solution that is good enough to the problem, to solve the problem, that people are okay with it. It's not a perfect solution by any means. It's inefficient. It might be a bit expensive, or it might be super cheap and it's a bit rubbish, but it does the job well enough, right? That the cost of switching to anything else, whether mentally, physically, or financially, just isn't worth it. And that's where I have to caution founders. I get so many founders coming up to me going, look, I've got this great, it's a real problem. It impacts all these people. It's massive. And I'm like, right, why has no one solved it before? Well, blah, 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 blah. So what are they doing today that solves this problem for them? Well, okay, they do this, that, and the other. Okay, right, brilliant. So you've got this solution. Yeah. Does anyone want this solution? Yeah, everyone's told us it's a great solution and they want it. Have they paid for it yet? Well, no, but we've got a great waiting list of people who are willing to use it. Okay, how much are you charging? Well, it's free at the moment. So, okay, so you're giving them away a free solution and people are telling you they like it, but no one's really using it yet. Yeah, well, we're not quite there. Okay. Maybe you've solved the problem, but there isn't a market for this solution, right? And it's trying to identify those two things that can be really challenging. And that's really a process, ultimately. I always encourage founders to try to get people to pay to use your products, right? And there are lots of products out there which people won't pay for, but generate revenue in other ways. I mean, Google is a perfect example of this, right? No one's paying to use a search engine. No one. There's so many search engines out there. But the data they can gather off the back of that is invaluable. So that's fine. It works, right? There are others where actually you can afford to charge for the product because actually trying to leverage that data doesn't make sense, right? So there are different models, and it's really about finding that one that fits for you and trying to scale that problem up. But if you sit there trying to think of that globally scalable problem from day one, you're going to be there for a while. Right? You are.
Love it. I was going to ask you actually, because you mentioned the word problem probably quite a few times in that. So I have to ask you this question because I wrote it down and it succinks beautifully into the next question. But does having a business or an idea, does it have to solve a problem or a pain point in order for it to be scalable, in order for it to be kind of viable? Do you know what I mean?
Personally, I think the best solutions are ones that remove friction, right? Anything that removes friction from the process that either makes it easier, quicker, or more convenient is a winner, right? That's something I've seen over and over and over and over again. Convenience beats everything, right? People will sacrifice quality for convenience and speed. They just 100% will. And there's friction in all sorts of places. Anywhere where there's introduced new regulation, you're guaranteed to see new friction. Anywhere where you're seeing, where you have distance, you're going to have friction. Anywhere where you have supply and demand, you're going to have friction. Anywhere where you have multiple steps in the process, you're going to have friction. Anywhere where there's resource scarcity, you're going to have friction. And it's about identifying those friction points in the system that can be removed. And people will almost always pay for that, right? Because removing friction improves efficiency, which means it improves time, and time is money, right? So if you can save people time, people will pay you, right? Because you can put a dollar value on that, right? And that is always valuable to people.
It's a good point. I like the way that you kind of broke that down. Yeah, and it's a really good. I hope some of the listeners that are listening in right now, I really hope that they're really kind of making some notes, because I think that was a really valuable value bomb that you dropped there, and I think that's a really good point there. Some really good stuff there. Now I have to go to pitching, because I know that I have to talk to you about pitching. Now, you must have had at least, I don't know, probably at least a couple of thousand people pitch you over the last sort of, I don't know, 5-7 years or whatever it is, or more. What would you say from your experience are some of the things that make you cringe, or they're like the no-nos when it comes to pitching, where they're like, no, staying away from that? Does that make sense? But you kind of see like maybe a regular pattern that people are using or whatever it is. Is there any thoughts there?
Yeah, that's definitely, and you're right. I mean, in the Impact X pipeline, we've got well over 2,000 companies.
Yeah.
We've probably spoken to at least half of them, and I would have had 90% of those conversations. And then there's all the other pitching competitions, pitching days, mentoring. So I've spoken to thousands of companies, right? And founders, worked with, advised, mentored through different guises. So I'd say, firstly, there's two types of pitching, right? You've got your Techstars demo day, Y Combinator, where it's practically a mini TEDx talk, right? And it really is a big show, fine, right? That's one way of pitching. But then you've got your time with an investor type pitch, right? Where really it's about just get the information over to me efficiently, effectively, and quickly, right? So that we can get down, so that I can understand it, and then I can start asking you key questions. So just a stylistic thing, one that bothers me is when everyone thinks they're Steve Jobs, they think they're Dom Draper, and it winds me up. This opening. I want you to imagine a time or a place where people behave, and you're just like, oh, come on, please, can we just cut the nonsense? Right, let's get down to it. The other, right, and this is ironic, I talked about finding a real problem. Some founders obsess over the problem so much that they spend most of their pitch talking about the problem, right? Now, I'm going to tell you, you mentioned, I've spoken to thousands of companies. It is rare that I hear a problem that I've not heard before, right? There are some genuine problems that I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was an issue, right? But for the most part, I've probably heard this statement before, right? Unless you're really putting a new spin on it, please just get to the core point about the problem, right? And then cool, got it, understood it. Now let's talk about what the actual opportunity is here and how you're solving this problem, right? That's a big one. I would say the biggest issue I see, though, and this is horrible and it's terrible, is founders pitching, and after 3 minutes, you still don't know what the problem is, right? Or the solution. I'm like, I don't know what you're actually trying to solve here. I really don't get it. And there have been times where I've had founders pitching, I've literally had to go, so tell me what it is you do again. Right? I don't understand it. And that is a massive issue, right? Because immediately I'm thinking to myself, this founder cannot communicate effectively. I can't understand this, and I like to think I'm pretty smart. And I'm going to have to try to communicate this idea to other people. And this is going to be a nightmare. And I'm saying that. Yeah. Let's not bother. So those are some big issues. And then ultimately, not asking for what you actually need, right? It's like, well, okay, so great. You understood it. Cool. I understand it. So what do you need the money? How much money do you need? And what do you need it for? And we talk about that. So really being able to focus on honestly, it's just about telling the basics. Some of the most effective pitches I've heard haven't had any of these crazy embellishments. They've not been 10, 20, please don't make it a 20-minute pitch, right? They've been 3 minutes, and it's just been bang, fact, bang, fact, bang, fact. And it's just been, this is the problem. This is the solution. This is the opportunity. This is how we're going about it. This is why we're better than everybody else. This is how we make money. This is why we've been showing. This is the incredible success we've seen so far. This is why you should be excited about us. This is how much money we need. This is how you're going to make your money. And this is what we're going to do with it. And this is who the great team are. And it's just like boom, 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 boom. And you're just like, wow, okay, great, fantastic. I understand everything I need to understand. Now I need to come to some conviction around whether I'm really interested in this space or not. But I get it, right? And that's what it's all about. Most people think pitching is about convincing the investor. The investor's already got their own thoughts and ideas, right? It's about imparting everything in your brain that really narrows this problem and solution and everything down to its bare bones so that the investor really gets it, feels excited about it, and wants to know more about it, right? That's what you've got to be able to do. And the only way to do that is impart the facts and show growth and progression, right? Whether it's the problem is getting bigger, the market and the opportunity space is getting bigger. Our solution solves this for all these people. We have a great opportunity to do this, and we've been doing it, right? We've solved it for X people, and more people want to buy our solution, right? So everything up and to the right, whether it's the scale of the problem, scale of the solution, scale of your success so far, whether it's what you're going to be doing in the future, it's all about showing that sense of progression and growth, right? And if you can do that, people get excited. You get excited about the most boring subject if you can see that level of progression, because ultimately an investor is there to make money, right? Absolutely. And that's the thing a lot of founders forget. The investor is there to make money. Explain to me how I'm going to make money.
That's as blunt as it is, ladies and gents. As blunt as it is. I need to make money, right? That's it is. Right. I'm not your friend. I'm not your mate.
Exactly. I might have a core mission and a belief. Absolutely. I'm here to invest in diverse entrepreneurs because I believe it's a major social problem and I want it solved. But I also need to make money at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? So I need to know, how am I going to... I know I'm solving my social issue because otherwise you wouldn't be in this room talking to me. So great, we've solved that particular problem. Now I need to figure out how you, out of the other 2,000 people that I'm looking at, are going to make me and my fund and my investors money, right? That's what I've got to understand. And so many founders forget that.
You know, I remember when we shared our experience, when I was pitching to you and your colleague on the London night. And okay, I know when we were speaking, you were like, yeah, you know, I can't like be seen as kind of, you know, being excited about events because you said, you know, you've got to be seen as biased, right? You've got to be seen as not being favoritism to other people and whatever it is. Be honest. What do you think of the big Clean Ocean Alliance that I've come up with? What's your thoughts about that? Because I know that you had it on your ideas list.
Yeah, I did. I had it on my ideas list. Cleaning waterways with automated drones.
That's so funny. I love it.
I think it's critical. I think so. As much as I said we need to make money, ultimately there is no money to be made if the planet is dead. Right? It's just that straightforward. Same with climate. And there is money to be made in clean solutions, clean tech, green tech, all of it. There is money to be made. There's lots of money out there, right? Yeah. So it's not about becoming the next WeWork, the next Uber, although everyone says that, blah, 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 blah. I need to get a return. But also, I have a very strong mission-driven approach to things as well, right? And for me, clean oceans, clean water is critical. It's the bedrock of of the entire ecosystem that we live in, right? So if we don't take care of it, if we don't deal with it, we have a real issue. So it's definitely a space that I'm excited by and interested in. It's just how do you build a scalable business in that approach, right? And what is there that can be done with it? That's really where it comes down to. So absolutely an area I'm excited by. And I work with the water sector as well through Spring Innovate, so the Water Sector Centre of Excellence. Water is the product that every being, not every human, every being on this planet requires. Clean water, right? Everyone needs it. Everything needs it. And if we don't take care of our oceans and our water supply, we have a massive problem. We're not even talking about carbon capture and the rest of it, and the damage being done through warming oceans and blah, 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 world. We're just talking about plastic in our oceans in this particular conversation.
Absolutely.
It's a massive issue, but there is definitely opportunities to be had there as well. It's about identifying which ones work from an investor perspective, which one. And some ideas, to be frank, are better driven by government. Some are better driven by a sovereign wealth fund. Some are better driven by private equity. But there will be those that fit comfortably into the venture capital space, and it's understanding which ones they are. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that is the challenge. I love it. Now, I know that we're coming towards the end of our conversation. And listen, this has been a ball, a bit of an eye opener from my perspective. And, it's just been really, really good. But for people that are listening in, and maybe they have an idea, or maybe they have a business and they need to look for I know that one of our clients, for example, I know that he's got some investors on board. He's in the software business, so similar to the areas of interest of you for whatever reason. But my last question, I suppose, is how should people like entrepreneurs or people that have got ideas approach someone like you? Because I know that there's a lot of mindset stuff that goes along here and says, there's no way I can get access to whoever, whether it be Peter Jones or the guys from Shark Tank or whatever it is. Like that there's a real kind of like, you know what I mean? There's a blockage. I'm never going to get access to that. And then they just give up, right? But what's your advice for people that have maybe that kind of blockage, or that have that fear factor of, do you know what? There's no way I'm going to get access. So why should I bother?
So it's definitely difficult. And there are funds, like benchmark funds in the US, you can't approach benchmark. The only way you get investment from them is because a partner has introduced you to them, right?
Got it.
That's how it works. And there are quite a few funds out there that are, only warm intro. ImpactX, for example, we have a cold intro process. So we have an intake form on our website. People can apply, right? That's what we look for.
Nice.
And that's important to us because it's all about increasing the access. But no, absolutely, there are investors for whom you're just not going to be able to approach. That's just the way it is, right? And I think this is the key, right? Is identifying and understanding which investors are right for you, given who you are and what stage you're at and what market you're in, right? Now, that always seems quite contentious, but what I say is it's basically a triangle, right? You've got 3 corners to the triangle. You've got founder and team, you've got market and excitement, and you've got traction, right? Those are your 3 points of the triangle. And different investors will lean in to different points. Some investors will only invest in you if you've got a founder and team with serious provenance and track record. So you're all PhD students from Harvard, right? One of you has built a startup before and seen an exit, right? There will be funds who will only look for that type of profile. Now, if you're talking to a fund and that's what they look for and you don't have that, don't bother talking to them. It is a waste of your time, right? There will be others who are super focused on specific markets like crypto or fintech or insurtech or AI, machine learning. If you're a consumer goods company making handbags, there is no point speaking to that investor, right? It's just not going to work for you, right? And often you'll get investors who say, I really like your idea, but it's against our thesis, I can't invest. And that is literally how it operates. Like ImpactX, I might love your idea, but if you have not got a diverse founding team, I can't invest in you. I might be able to put my money into you, but I can't put my fund's money into you, right? So bear in mind, think about, are you approaching the investor or are you approaching the fund, right? That's really important. So really understand where you sit on that triangle. Are you one of those points or are you all 3 of those points? And then identify funds that really work for you. But one thing I will say is you cannot go wrong with having great traction, right? Great traction makes everyone excited, yeah? Forget the market, forget the founding team. If you can show 400% growth month on month for the last 2 years, trust me, people are going to be interested in what you're doing, right? So traction, honestly, I say this over and over again, execution and traction. Too many founders spend too much time speaking to investors, not enough time executing on what they're doing, right? And I would say that's where you need to focus. It is great to be out there speaking to investors, because the other mistake is to not speak to enough of them, and you come to them too late in the process. There are some investors that want to have spoken to you for years before they invest, right? Some will make a move within a week, right? But genuinely build those relationships, get out there, go to events, speak to investors, be ready to pitch your idea, be ready to have that 30-second elevator pitch. But just be aware that if you don't have the traction, or if you don't have the provenance, or if you don't have an incredible market you're operating in, you're probably going to be too soon.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, this has been a great eye-opener. I mean, it's been a great show. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I know that some of our listeners are, I hope that you've really taken some notes here, depending on when you're listening to this, of course, and you've got your notebook and pen handy, and, Easy's really kind of really poured a lot into your glass and really giving you some great value bombs. So just want to say, Easy, thanks very much for being on today's show today.
No worries, Adam. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the listeners for listening.
Yeah, appreciate that. Awesome. Even though we kind of got his name completely wrong at least 50 times at least, but it's all good. But listen, guys, hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you have enjoyed today's show, by the way, please do me a favor, give us a 1 or a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, whatever your preferred platform. But from me and Easy, all good. Happy days. Hope you're having a great day, week, month. And from me and Easy, have a great day. Take care. See you soon. Cheers.
Take care.